Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. I hope that today has been treating you well. In today's video, as you can see from the title down below, I am going to be giving you my update for the No Pan Left Behind Project Pan series. So this is my third update for this series. It is still a fairly new one to me. But today I'm talking about the eyeshadow palette that I rolled in for September, which was the Plouise We're Bringing the Smoke little 6-pan eyeshadow palette. So obviously it was quite easy to sort of get into each of these pans at least once. Each of these has been used at least once. In total, this whole palette has been used, I'm looking down at my notes, this whole palette has been used a grand total of 12 times. Obviously it is a neutral palette. I was able to sort of fit this into my routine quite easily throughout the month. So I have 4 days where I specifically took pictures of the makeup looks that I created with this eyeshadow palette. Now, I like quite a lot of colour. Look at what I'm wearing. I'm wearing every single colour under the sun. I love colourful makeup, so this isn't the sort of palette that I generally reach for by itself because I like a lot of colour. I like a lot of colour in my makeup. So I've got pictures of 4 looks. I'm going to show you how I used some of these shades and then we can pick a new palette for October. Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about having a new palette and I'm excited to not be using such a neutral one. This is a fantastic palette, I love it, but I'm just not a neutral girly, so I'm excited to be rolling it out. I'm excited that it's time. So first up, I will scooch over so that I can put a picture here. This look here, I had, let me get it back up so I can get the names right. Too Hot to Handle and More Action, the 2 mattes in the middle of the palette. I had Too Hot to Handle all through the crease and then a little bit of More Action on the outer corner, and obviously you can see that there's a beautiful shimmer across the lid there. That shade is Prism from the Pastel Roses. That's how I have generally been using this palette throughout the month. I've just been using something through the crease and then putting something else over the lid from another palette. This, like I said, this isn't a palette that I can generally use by itself. The eyeliner that I have on in this picture is MUA Ultraviolet, that beautiful sort of fuchsia-y bright purple liner. I absolutely love that one. Then the very next day I did basically the same thing. I used Too Hot to Handle and More Action again, and I had these shades Dragonfly and Fairy Floss from the Pastel Roses across the lid. Very similar look, used the palette in a very similar way, and the liner that I'm using in this picture is again MUA, but this one is the shade Russet, so it's more of like a deep brown sort of neutrally sort of shade. Then onto the next day, these 3 were all like day after day after day. This look here, I used again Too Hot to Handle and More Action through the crease and like smoked it out, and then I used Meet Your Match, which is this shade here. I used this one all over the lid, like I packed it onto the lid and got that like slightly shimmery effect all over the lid. And then the other shade, the other shimmer shade rather, this one here, which is called Blazing Babe, I used on the inner corner as like a little bit of a highlight and like blended that like across the lid and across the inner half of the lid. The shimmers in these palettes are fantastic, but it's just not a colour story that I can use all by itself. And then the last look that I wanted to talk about here, I created pretty much a completely matte look. Again, I used Too Hot to Handle, More Action. I used a little bit of All the Smoke as like a little bit of a smoky liner. I then went over it with a liquid liner, but I did also use Meet Your Match, the darker of the shimmer. I use that through the crease. It's not too shimmery, so I was able to like buff it out a little bit and create that slightly warmer crease tone with the shimmer, which I felt like that worked quite well in this look, given that I was also using a matte lilac shade. I do believe, I'm like looking at my phone down on the table, looking at the picture that you're looking at here. I do believe that that was the matte lilac out of the Cool Trolls palette, but I could be wrong. And then I also used a little bit of Blazing Babe over the top of that bright purple lilac-y shade on the inner corner. And then I haven't written down what liner I used on that picture, so I don't know. Is it black? Yeah, it's probably the 17 one because I use that one every single day. So let's get up the Tiny Decisions app. I have all of my palettes in a wheel here, and there's a couple that are blanked out because they're the ones that I have already had for a project No Pan Left Behind. So I'm going to spin the wheel and let's see what I am getting. Profusion Delightful Dahlia. I love that palette. I love that palette. Right, let me get it and I can swatch it for you. Okay, so this is what the palette looks like. If you haven't tried Profusion's eyeshadow palette formula before, I highly, highly recommend these little palettes. The formula in these palettes I feel is quite different to the ones that you get in the larger palettes. These ones are absolutely fantastic. And then if I open her up, you can see we're finally getting some colour. We're finally getting some colour in this project, what's it called? No Pan Left Behind. Just absolutely left my brain there. We're finally getting some colour. So we've got 3 mattes, this one, and this one. This shade in the centre is the chunkiest glitter that you have ever seen, the most beautiful turquoise blue. And then this shade up at the end, I don't know how well you can see there, but I have swatched these, I'll show you in a sec, is almost like a topper, but it's like an iridescent sort of white to blue shade. So that's what they look like in the pan. I have already used those a ton. so much. Like I say, I really love the formula in these little 5-pan palettes, and that is what they look like. I do have a little bit of moisturiser on my hands, so they have grabbed a little bit because my skin is incredibly dry. I can't do swatches without putting a moisturiser on first, but you can see how chunky that glitter is, that middle shade. It's just beautiful. I am not going to struggle to use any of the shades apart from that glitter. I don't know what occasion I can wear that glitter for. Other than, of course, just a casual Tuesday, which I am more than happy to do, but that is like so chunky and so glittery. I'm going to have to be aware of doing my eyes first, which I don't usually do for a day at work. I usually just blend and hope for the best, but I'm going to have to do my eyes first when I use that that glitter. It's insane. It's so pretty. And another one that I really just do not use enough, because that's the whole point of this series. It just gets lost in my makeup collection and I don't use it enough, but I'm very glad to finally have a little bit of colour and purple as well. I absolutely love that. So that is my October update for you for the No Pan Left Behind series. I would love to hear, are you doing this series as well, or are you just doing like a regular rolling project pan sort of a thing? If you want to see more updates from this series, I have a whole playlist just for this series. I also have a whole playlist for Project 10 uses, which I have already done an update for this month. I will leave everything linked up in the cards, anything that's relevant to this. I hope you found this video useful. I hope you found it entertaining. I would love to hear how you are getting on with your project pan series. I hope that you are having as much fun as I am, because I am so excited about these shades. I'm so happy to have a little bit of colour. But until next time, a nice short and sweet video today. Thank you ever so much for watching. Bye.